Hello and welcome to the Authentic Uprising Show. I'm your host, Jill Simons. I am so excited to grow in the radical art of standing in what God says about you with you today. This show is a place where we pour into our concept of who we are, how we've been created with intention by God, and how we can live out of the freedom that He has for us more every single day. Hello and welcome to the Authentic Uprising podcast and show. I am Jill Simons, your host, and I'm so excited to be here with you today because I'm talking to someone who has become a friend as we have recorded several times together now. Her name is Tina Sullivan. She is a life coach and phenomenal at helping women to really dig into their lives and discover what can be different and using really the power of their thoughts to change what is going on in their lives. She's also a beautiful woman of faith and a mom, and I'm so excited to share her with you today. So thank you so much, Tina, for being here with me today.
Thank you for having me.
So Tina, share a little bit about how you got into coaching to begin with.
Yeah, so it was a long time coming. So before, I was a teacher by trade, and then I became a mom and stayed at home. And then I was depressed for a couple of years. And so this really took a hard toll on me. And so I was really confused, like, who am I? I had a really hard time understanding who I was supposed to be as a mom, as a wife, as just me. There was a piece of me missing. And then I thought something was wrong. I thought I was being selfish. And coaching came probably 4 or 5 years later after all of the work that I had done to discover who I was in God, and I went from there.
That's awesome.
So it's been a long journey, but it's been one of the most rewarding things.
Absolutely. So for people unfamiliar with the idea of a coach or a life coach, or think that it's like, what even is that? How would you explain it to them?
Yeah, so a life coach. So I'm a general life coach. So I just help you get results is the easiest thing. So if there is something that you have always wanted to do, you're like, but I can't do it, but you know you want to, I can help you hit that goal or achieve whatever it is. So if it's like losing weight, running, right? Like you think of a marathon, like I help you strategically change your thinking so you can do that. So like it's not about, I help you, change your thinking so that you are confident in what it is you want and you're confident in who you are in the world.
I love that. I love that so much. And so that is a huge part of the reason why I invited Tina to talk on this show specifically about really discovering who you are and getting in touch with yourself. Because I think that so many of us, especially in adulthood, and Tina, I know you experienced this entering motherhood, when you have that huge shift in your identity where now you're in charge of another person and things like that, but not even exclusive to that. Sometimes just when you leave your parents' house or something like that and have a shift in life, there's this sense of like, if I'm not doing the things that I've always done, am I the same person? And so how would you recommend women kind of get in touch with themselves if they feel like they're kind of a stranger to themselves at this point in their lives?
Yeah. So if they are thinking, or if you're thinking that you're like, I don't even know like who I am, there's always a thought after that. And then it's like, okay, what do you think of yourself in that thought? Right. So if you think, I don't know who I am, there's usually shame after because you're like, I shouldn't be thinking this. There's something wrong with me. I should be happy is another one I hear from clients. And like, right, I have this great life and I shouldn't be looking for this. Like it's cognitive dissonance where you're just like, you know that there's something that needs to be done. Like there's something bigger, but then you're like, but I shouldn't be wanting it. And so we shame ourselves for thinking that we could have more when really like that's the spark that God wants to light, right? Like you want to be more and you have it, but then you like take it and you're like, but I shouldn't be. That's selfish. And so through coaching, it's what's really fun is like you get to inflame that spark.
Ha.
You just have to let yourself be inflamed with God and what he wants for you, but you can't do that unless you're willing and you're open to what that is. But usually what's stopping people from going to the next step is the acceptance piece, that they think that there is something that they want more of, and then the shame that follows. But like, I shouldn't want more, like I should be happy. And it's not about shoulding or shouldn't being happy. It's just about like, okay, like let's explore that. What do you want? And I think this is where the identity shift, the struggle comes in, because we don't let ourselves ask questions in a curious way, in a judgment-free zone. And that's why coaching is so powerful, because you get to explore like the scariest thoughts without it being any pressure. There is no judgment. And so like you get to say things that you've always wanted to say, because we're afraid if we say it, then we have to do it. And that's not the case. And so I just really love being curious with, what is it do I want? Like, what would happen if I went for that? What would not happen? What are my fears? And saying it out loud really calms your nervous system. Right? Like we really can like get ourselves like worked up and make ourselves feel the pain of rejection before we even experience it.
Yeah, that is so true. Because I think about a lot of times in my own life where it's the worry in advance. It's the, this could happen and things like that is infinitely more painful and excruciating than like what ends up happening, which sometimes is not even a bad thing to begin with. But even if it is, it's something that is so much less of a thing. For instance, even this week, my son was not able to go to daycare on Tuesday. And then we found out that his care provider also was going to be closed on Wednesday. And I was just like, oh my gosh, Wednesday is going to be like such a long day. And it's going to be so hard. He's at the like, can't like communicate, but already knows what he wants kind of stage. So it's just a lot of screaming. And so not my favorite stage. And I was like, made this whole thing. It ended up being this really nice day with my 1-year-old, and it was really a gift to be with him, but to get so caught up in the thoughts about what it was going to be before it happened, created just a lot of drama.
Yes. Yeah. And it can go like from just like your normal day to day, like how will today go? Like, it's not what I expected, to even like the extreme of, I can't go after what I want, like my dream, because if I say it, then I have to do something about it. And there's no fun in that. Like, where is the fun in just saying it and sitting in the possibility of it happening? We put so much pressure on ourselves to, if we say it, then we have to do it, because then it's going to prove that you aren't reliable or you're not trustworthy. And I just, that's not how I roll anymore. Because I was like that. Like, I'm very driven and I've always had things on my list. And and so when I became a mom, I let the things that I love, the things that bring me joy, I let that fall down, because I believe like you can't be a mom and work. Like, there was this tie. And so as I let myself start to challenge and poke holes in the belief that you can't be a good mom and work, I started to find like the me again that I was. But it takes courage, and it takes those small steps of first accepting like, oh, like I think that there is more for me. And then what can you do next, right? Because if you think that there's something you could do more, right? And if you're feeling shame, it's just accepting where you are. You don't want to be in a rush to fix it, because that's where, right? Like, it's like the mantra. You can't mantra your way into change. You can't just say like, oh, like I want to believe that I can do it. But if your self-esteem, if what you're really saying, what you really believe is I can't do it, I'm not worth it, I'm not enough, you can't just mantra your way there. It takes intentional work, and it starts with poking holes. And what I really like to play with is, it's possible. It's possible I can be a working mom or I can work and be a good mom.
Absolutely.
Right? Because that's something that you can believe that. But if I believe I can't be a good mom and work, I can't go, oh, of course I'm a good mom and I can work. Like, it's too big of a step.
Yeah. And so that's kind of how you create the transitional phase then, correct?
Yes, that's how you create a new belief. When you're creating a new belief, you have to poke holes in your belief. You first have to acknowledge, like, this is what I believe, but then you can't be attached to changing it too quickly. Right? This is what you do in the coaching, in a coaching relationship.
Absolutely.
Is you talk about your goals and like who you want to be, and then we talk about like who are you now, how are you showing up, and then we take those steps, and then I help you learn like what are the thoughts, and I teach you how to use your brain differently so you go and you create what you want, and then in turn like you become more confident, you know who you are. Like, it's not even a question. It's not like we're sitting there and saying like, okay, today we're working on like who, like, your identity. We're not like, oh, today we're going to work on your identity. We're working on your goals, like very tangible goals. And a byproduct of that is their confidence in themselves.
So one thing we hear a lot from young women that we talk to and work with is this issue where they say, I always hear that I'm a beloved daughter of God, but that just doesn't like mean anything to me. It doesn't connect with me on any level. How could somebody start, going about addressing that sort of as an example?
Yeah. So then if they believe, like, they're like, it doesn't resonate with me, then they don't believe it, but then they don't want to say they don't believe it. Cause they're like, no, like, but like, I'm supposed to believe it. You got to get really humble and you have to speak the truth. I don't believe I'm a beloved daughter, which can turn some people off. You're like, oh, like, what are the people going to think of me? But if you really want that change, you have to accept where you are so that you can take steps forward. And then moving into, it's possible. Like, can you believe it's possible that you are a beloved daughter of God? Like, what is it that you can believe? And so it's really working with and exploring, again, your thoughts of like, what is it that you can take with you, right? For me, the like thinking it's inevitable is really helpful. For one of my clients, it's really discouraging for her. She doesn't like hearing it's inevitable. But for me, I'm like, it's done. Like, I'm committed to my goal and it's going to happen. And even when there's setbacks, I'm not worried. But for my client, she feels pressure. And so knowing that not a one thought fits all. So you are enough, you are worth it, you are a beloved daughter, right? It's okay if it doesn't resonate with you, but what is the thought that lights you up? What is that thought that sparks your joy? And then go out there and find it, and don't compare yourself to others, but instead, like, enjoy and create relationships and build each other up in like our differences.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's so interesting. I love hearing what lights people up because it's so different than what lights me up. Even with me and my husband, we think so differently. And so before it would become a personal, like, am I doing something wrong? And now it's like, wow, I'm so fascinated by how you think and how you're motivated to do something. And then I want to know more about what is it that he's thinking.
Interesting. And so that really is then a huge exercise in humility to be able to be that truthful, I think, with ourselves.
Yeah.
I think that that's probably part of the issue that we're bumping up against here is that the places where we feel like we don't know ourselves, is it more likely that that's a place of cognizant dissonance where like what is actually true for us feels like it diverges from the should, like what it should be. And so we just struggle to look at it. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah. And if you, right, and I think there's also this fear of if you say it, then it's true.
Yeah.
Like, if I say it, then nothing's going to happen. And that's not true. Like, it's just saying it's like, you can do so much more when you're like, when you know, like, if you think of this is awareness, and it's a tool that I use in coaching. It's like, you think of it like a map. Where are you on the map? If you want to be somewhere, you have to know where you are right now. And when you push away the truth and the reality is like, right, I don't believe that I'm a beloved daughter of God, right? If you think that doesn't resonate with me, what you think, like, in truth is, I'm not a beloved daughter of God.
Yeah.
Sounds harsh, but you can work with it because then you know where you are on the map. Now let's play with your thoughts. Let's see, Is it possible? Maybe it's just like beloved. Like maybe you're just not connecting. What does beloved mean to you? Let's define it. Maybe it's just a definition. Like she thinks beloved means something different than what you know what I mean? Like you get to play with the definitions. What if beloved is something that connects to you? And it's really like she has to connect with beloved. And then we define like, what does beloved mean? And she connects with it. And then she's like, it's possible that I'm beloved daughter. She's like, yes. Right. Like, and so it's not just, it's right. Not a one thought fits all, but you don't have to just completely change it, but it's just like questioning, like, well, getting back to the basics, like what does that mean? What's beloved? What is daughter? Like, what is the context of this thought? And do we like it? No. Well, what is it saying? What's the meaning? And then like, right, like we want to know that we are loved. We want to be accepted by God. And then just going to work and really understanding like what it is that our clients, like what the clients are fearing in the moment.
That's so interesting because this hasn't been presented to me this way before. And I really love it because I think that then this method to really deconstruct allows us to look at maybe it's the concept of being a daughter that is the challenge, you know, like I have a poor sense of what it is to be a daughter, maybe because I did not have a positive experience of being a daughter. Maybe that's something that I was, eager to get out of, felt like by leaving the house or something like that and putting me back there. It feels like, don't want to do that anymore. And to have that level of personalization to how we address things, because it is so often presented as this is the thought that should work for you, with the platitudes and with the like, just remember that you are enough and things like that, where I'm sure that's connecting with some people in the audience, but to also have that permission, it's okay if you're not one of them.
Yes. Yeah. And then again, what you're saying with like the daughter, like it's such a true, right? That's another thing you explore is like, like, what is it? Like, because it's all right fear. Like you want to be accepted. And then there's this like universal, like, this is what the faith is. This is what God is. And he loves us. Like, so I should believe it. And again, it's always a shoulding on ourselves. And that's not what God wants. He wants a relationship. And he wants a relationship with you as you are right now. And if you as you are right now, you're like, I don't really connect with you as the Father. He's like, great. Just he's like, okay. He's like, I can hold space for you. I can love you even though you're not connecting. That's okay. And we're afraid. We tend, like as humans, it's so funny. We tend to step away and withdraw when we're vulnerable and afraid that if we show who we really are, again, back to the self-identity, who we are, then people are going to reject us. And so a lot of the time people don't want to know, they don't want to take that step into knowing who we are, because like, if you know, then what happens? Like, what if relationships stop? What does that mean? And so you can't really know like what the fears are unless you make peace with it, unless you explore what it is. And for everyone, it's different. Some people might not have any drama at all about it. And other people might be up at night, like thinking about it every single day. I know I was.
Yeah. So for people that are doing this thought work and are struggling with looking at other people, kind of looking outwards at like, man, it seems like other women in the church, whatever the situation might be, just like they know who they are and they just have this confidence and they are perceiving that these other people, rightly or wrongly, have this level of kind of maturity and self-knowledge that feels unattainable to them. What is the approach to like interact well with people that we see doing it well and getting to the point, people that we perceive to be at the point that we want to get to? How can we look at them without it becoming a like, man, I'm not there and I'm never going to be there kind of experience?
Yeah. So this is the part that can be triggering. I'm going to say triggering as it just brings up uncomfortable feelings for people, because it's really the deep work of who you think you are. So like if you see other people and then you're like, and you're judging them and you're placing judgments on them, usually it's a sign of what you think of yourself. And so again, it just comes back to the beliefs. It's not a problem. It's not a problem if you have beliefs that aren't serving you. It's just what can we do from here? And so for me, the approach I take is one, just coming from a place of love and compassion. And yeah, like that can be used in like, but really like, what does that mean? It's getting curious and allowing to just explore your mind without it being this, I don't think I'm a beloved daughter of God. And that's not a problem. Instead of, I don't think I'm a beloved daughter, but I should, right? Like, so we can go down the line. And so like, if you think of it like a ladder, the way I work with my clients is, I have them envision a ladder. And if they, if you go like beloved daughter of God, I shouldn't be thinking this. I am, I have like 10 years of proof that I suck and whatever, right? The work is just going up and up and up. Like, how do we stop? How do we recognize the thoughts when they come?
Yeah.
And then how can we redirect? And it takes practice.
Yeah.
And that's the work, and it's uncomfortable, but it's the best work you could do, because that's where the identity comes from. Like your identity isn't just your strengths. Your identity is you, and you have faults too. And that's okay. If you can love yourself through your faults, you're giving people around you permission to do the same. Wow. And then I teach a very specific tool so that, because clients are like, well, I'm just making up an excuse to behave however I want.
Yeah.
If I say like I have faults, but I teach a very specific tool so that's not the case. So like when their mind comes up with like, well, you're not doing it, you're making up an excuse, they're not. Because they can follow the steps so that they know what to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it's so empowering, because whether somebody decides to work with a coach or not, just having an awareness of the way and the means that is at all of our disposal to take custody of our thoughts is something that can be so empowering in a space that, especially when we're talking about belief, with our example, I'm a beloved daughter of God, where we just feel like I don't and I should. And that's kind of the end of the story. Like we don't have any more sense of what to do with that and where to go from there. And so this idea of what are how do I progress up the ladder, and how do I poke holes in this, and how do I really dig into what I disconnect with about the thought and where the disbelief really lies, gives us the work to do, because that's such a catchphrase right now, to do the work. And I think there's a lot of people, that are like, okay, like tell me what to do. Like I have no sense of how to do the work here. And I really, really love these steps that you're sharing.
Yeah. Cause like, especially like we love to know, like what you just said, like the steps, like what do we do? But it's like, okay, well, what if you don't do the steps? Like we know what we should do, we know better, and then we don't do it. This is where loving yourself comes in, right? Because we can know knowledge isn't enough. Like we can know what to do and still not do it.
Yeah.
But then how, and so this is what I teach is like the evaluating, like what worked, what didn't work, what can you do differently? And so it's what can you do differently next time? Okay, so you didn't do the thing you said you were going to do. Why? What were you thinking? What stopped you?
Yeah.
What made you feel afraid? And what are you going to do next time? And this is how this is when my clients say like, I'm making up an excuse, like, no, you're making a plan for next time. And you're loving yourself and you're forgiving yourself and your humanness. It's not a problem, but we just want to make it a problem because it's just nature. Like we just like to make problems. And like the question that I really love is, how can it be simple? It can really be simple.
Wow. I really love that, because I think that that's a huge pitfall for so many people, is feeling like things are very complex and very overwhelming typically.
And when you get overwhelmed, you stop. And when you stop, nothing changes. And so overwhelm is kind of like its own mindset. So again, it's just rewiring your brain to think in like, how can this be simple? and then redirecting and then not giving it any attention. And it just takes time for that to happen.
Wow. I absolutely love that. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Tina. I really appreciate it. If any of you really resonated with what Tina is sharing and are looking for someone to help you walk through this process, I really cannot recommend Tina highly enough, because she is such a pro at doing this. And like she, as I'm sure you've heard and saw during this podcast, has such a maternal and straightforward way of coming about things where things are not a crisis. And so if you're looking for someone who can really help be that voice of reason and that voice of, let's figure this out in your life, I really encourage you to click the link in the show description and check out all that Tina has to offer. So thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you, Jill.
Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of the Authentic Uprising podcast. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on a podcast app, make sure that you hit subscribe so that you can get all of our updates automatically in your app on YouTube. And we also ask that you leave us a review or a comment. If you're in a podcast app, leave us a review. That helps us get seen by more people. And on YouTube, leave us a comment. Let us know what you loved from the episode and send it on to a friend. I am sure that you know someone who really needs the message in this podcast from today. I also encourage you to check out Pink Salt Riot. That is my company that sponsors this podcast. We have an incredible online shop full of all kinds of beautiful and unique Christian lifestyle goods. You can shop our whole line at pinksaltriot.com. I'll see you next week.